The global gathering for educators and institutions is here. Anthology Together is where inspiration, connection, networking, and EdTech insight and innovation intersect into the premier event destination for the global education community. Registration is open. Go to anthologytogether.com. 3 higher ed authors, 100 plus college and university presidents, dozens of actionable insights for academic leaders. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, is now available on Amazon. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here again and again. It will go on forever. And I know this because, and I say this many times, Elvin Freitas, of course, co-founder of the EdUp Experience podcast, has me scheduled out, I think now till the end of the summer, every single day I podcast at noon Central Standard Time. It's kind of like an episodic thing you can count on every day. Me standing up here on the microphone, interviewing amazing people in and around higher education, many of whom, and I'm bringing back to the microphone a guest host today who also happens to be one of the 125 presidents we profiled in our book that just came out this past November 2022 called Commencement, the Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, which of course now has sold thousands of copies. And I want to thank you so much for your support. But we're bringing him back on the other side of the microphone, although I have been on his podcast, so he is on the other side of the microphone sometimes. It is a little confusing. Here he is. I'm just going to bring him in. He is the one and only Dr. Bradford Sims, and he is the president of Capital Technology University. Brad, what's going on?
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for inviting me to be a co-host for the first time with you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Did you know you were episode number 30? I think you were episode 34.
34
of the EdUp Experience podcast. So wow. That's how long I've known you for. It's been a long time.
Yeah. I don't know why you're not doing 2 a day. I don't know why you're just doing one of these a day.
Okay. Well, I like to keep my day job. That's one reason. And the other reason is I don't think I can talk that long, Brad, although maybe I can put that to the test. How do you feel about being on as a guest co-host on the EdUp Experience after being now a long-time guest?
No, I think it's come full circle. Whenever you first had me on, we talked about podcasts and the importance and how it's not well used in higher education. And that's when I started my own podcast. I don't do it a lot. I kind of actually moved on to LinkedIn Lives, and then you can also turn those into podcasts, but I think it's underutilized in higher education. And so you turned me on to that, and now full circle, I'm here with you, and I can't wait to see how the day goes.
It's amazing how it turns out.
That's a fact. That's a fact.
We have an amazing guest with us today, and I'm going to introduce him. And simultaneously, as he tells us about his company, I'm going to plug in my computer charger so we can continue on with this amazing podcast episode. Here he is, ladies and gentlemen. He is Aneesh Sohoni, and he is CEO at 1 Million Degrees. Aneesh, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this.
Well, Aneesh, we always like to level set with our audience. Tell us about 1 Million Degrees. What is it that you do, and how do you do it?
Right. Yes. So at 1 Million Degrees, we are a nonprofit whose mission is to support community college students on their pathways to economic mobility. We really ground in upward economic mobility as the endpoint of what we want to support community college students with. And our approach to doing that work is to provide holistic student support services to our students. So I know there's a lot of organizations out there that use the word holistic and wraparound. So let me tell you a little bit about what we specifically mean by that. We have 4 parts to our model. One is personal support to help our students navigate life. So we have program coordinators in our staff who have a 65-to-1 case management ratio, so much smaller than you usually see. That allows us to really build individualized and personalized relationships with students.
Excellent.
Second part of our model is academic support, really ensuring our students are clear on what their academic journey is and coaching them on different choice points along the way so that they can graduate with a degree or long-term credential within 3 years of starting. Third is professional support. So a maybe more unique part of our model compared to a lot of other college access or success organizations is we have curriculum we've used with our students to help them navigate not just their educational experience, but prepare for what happens after education as they think about career. So for example, in February, we ran sessions with our students on financial planning and financial literacy. And then we also pair our students with a volunteer coach. The field sort of knows them as mentors, but for us, we really think about it as an opportunity for students to take what they're learning through our curriculum and understand how it applies in the real world. Last piece is around financial supports. We are not a scholarship organization, but we do provide up to $1,000 to each of our students on the condition that they maintain progress on their journey and meet our program expectations. Now, we also split that payment out across the year. We know our students will drop out for far less than $1,000 due to unexpected emergencies. And so we don't want that to be the barrier or the reason they don't continue in their journey. And we want to reward them for making progress against their goals.
All right. Well, that was impressive.
I'm going to take a left turn to get back on track with you. By the way, I did plug in my charger, so we're good. We want to lose all the great things you said. You put out an article came out in the Hetchinger report today that you wrote. Now, this will be a few weeks when people listen to this episode, so go back and check it out. The reason I bring it up because I think it sets the stage for all the stuff that you're going to talk about when it comes to 1 million degrees. And in the title, it's, public is scrutinizing the value of a college degree. And much of what we talk about when it comes to value is directly connected to ROI. That's where the conversation tends to go. Well, I'm investing this, and am I going to earn that? But I have felt like, and I think you do too, that the value of a degree goes much greater and it goes beyond the economic impact and it goes to society and community. Can you talk about what your views are on the value of a college degree and why you're so passionate?
Yeah. And look, for me, I think it's both and, right? I think there's
Yes.
economic value and societal value. But to take a few steps back, it is completely understandable why there's skepticism right now around the value of a college degree when you think about the costs and the skyrocketing costs of a college education. And then when you also think about which students happen to be successful in their pursuit of a college education and which ones don't, specifically around racial and economic lines. And so for us, we understand the skepticism. And for me, I see the criticism, right? But what I believe is important is that we tackle the challenges, not that we move away from education or higher education as the future. I plan for my kids to go to college, right? And so long as many of our families are making choices that they want to send their kids to college, we need to make sure it's available for all. So the kind of premise I put out in the article is let's tackle the issues in two ways. One is let's make sure the supports that are available to all students are truly available, no matter a student's racial background, their geography, or where they live. And then second, to your point earlier, I think there's an economic value here, right? So students who have progressive education continue to still do better in the labor market. And not just with first jobs, right? I think there's a lot of ways you could support students to get into the first job. But if you look at who companies continue to promote and retain in their companies, there is a correlation with higher education there as well. So also thinking about upward mobility. And then beyond the economic standpoint, I share a little bit about my own experience. My parents going to college fundamentally changed the life that I had, that my sister had, and the opportunities we had access to because of the jobs they were able to get from their higher education. And so I think there is just a ripple effect that happens, especially when you support the first student in the family to get a college degree that'll continue for generations to come.
You know, I love what you said there. It's a complex argument, right? And you think about, and I've said it many times here, and I say it again. It's hard to understand, and there's companies reducing degree requirements. I get all that. There are your degree naysayers. There's people that say you don't need a college degree anymore. You can go on and do great things without it. And then you imagine the conversation you have with your kids, and you go, "All right, Johnny, you're not going to college, buddy. You're not going." And you just wonder, how does that conversation take place, and is that a reality in today's households? And I don't know if it is. I think it's still a reality that we go, you know, Johnny, you're going to go to college, or at least we're going to try to point you in the direction. If you decide not to go, that's up to you, but we want to press you toward it. Don't you think? You think it's like overstated that families are telling their kids not to go to college? I mean, I just can't imagine it.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's right. I mean, I don't know that we'll ever get the data on this, but it would be fascinating to see of all the people, you know, sort of sharing a alternative narrative of what you can do. And again, look, there probably is room for this in the market, don't get me wrong. But of all the families who are sharing a different narrative, it would be really interesting to know what choices they're making with their own children. And I agree with you, Joe. I think largely speaking, you would see those students pursuing college or being encouraged to pursue college.
I think so too. Well, let me bring in my guest co-host. Again, he is the president of Capital Technology University.
Prepare to be astonished.
Thanks, Joe.
No pressure.
Certainly ROI is top of my list. You know, a few years ago, we started guaranteeing all of our bachelor students a minimum $50,000 starting salary, or we cover their and their parents' quarterly loan payments, because we value ROI. And that's why, you know, for me, I went to school to get a job. I didn't go to college just to get a degree. So I really appreciate, you know, how you're helping the community college students get through that. Now, so part of my question on the program, you know, obviously a lot of folks going to community college didn't have the mindset that they wanted to do a 4-year bachelor's degree, which is it's just another entry point into an education that can, you know, obviously provide a career for you. And I certainly am a true believer you don't need to go to college to have a great career. Just think about it. You could do an apprenticeship program for one of the many construction trades and make a lot of money. You don't even have to go to college. But where I see, you know, the great fit is that those programs like apprenticeship, you can use those and you get those along the way with your degree, whether it's a community college or a bachelor's degree now, and give them the same level of significance. So how do you see your program? How does it help the folks get involved with maybe doing an internship or working for a company while they're going through the program to work on their degree?
Absolutely. We see it the exact same way you do, Bradford. So we are part of the Chicago Apprenticeship Network here in Chicago. And I think this is sort of our experience with this is part of our passion in ensuring there are more work-based learning opportunities for our students, or even students we may not serve, but in the ecosystem as well. So I'll give you an example, right? So we have a partnership with Aon to support more than 100 apprentices a year in earning as they are working at Aon and learning at the same time at one of the city colleges of Chicago.
Amazing.
And every time I talk to one of our apprentices, they are the most hopeful of any students I talk to, right? So I talked to one student named Daniel who told me the only reason I can afford to go to college is I also have an income stream coming in right now through my apprenticeship, right? So there's an affordability solution here, or a life solution here, which you can earn and learn has to be a part of the equation.
Excellent.
Another student I'll talk to will tell me that because they're doing the job that they want to do in the future, there is not a disconnect for them between the purpose and role of education and the purpose and role of work in their life. It is all one and the same. And so we want to really make sure we are expanding work-based learning opportunities. Now, look, apprenticeships, they're very intensive, right? For the company, for the student, they're not for everyone, but I certainly think there's more room for apprenticeships in our country. And even if not an apprenticeship, as you noted, there's internships, there's micro internships. I think work-based learning has to become fundamental to how we think about the future of learning. And we need to blur the divide that we typically see between work and education.
Yes.
No, you know, obviously over the years, as you have students go through an internship program, if they continue in their education, they're better students, right? They come back, they're asking good questions, they have a much better idea where they want to go. And in the community college, my experience, the one thing, I don't know how you're doing this with your mentoring, I have seen sometimes the community college students that have moved in to finish their bachelor's degree struggle a little bit with that transition from the community college to finish their 4-year degree. Do you have that as part of the mentoring, how to help them get through that transition?
Yeah, that's definitely a part of what we support with, but I also think it fundamentally comes back to how we approach our work, right? So what we think about is how can we position the students so that when they leave our support during the community college experience, yes, we'll support with the transfer as well. How can they leave that experience better equipped to advocate for themselves? We know we're not going to be around as a support system forever. So yes, part of what we do is we support them in the near term just to navigate challenges. But I think if you talk to our alums and our scholars, what they'll say is the lessons they learned through our supports were lessons they were able to carry forward with them, whether it was when they went to their four-year institution and they were taught by us on how to have a conversation with their academic advisor to navigate a tough or difficult conversation, or whether they go into work and now they have a fundamental understanding of what good personal finance and financial planning looks like. Everything we do is really geared towards supporting and building our students' agency to be successful, even when we're not there.
Excellent.
Their premier EdTech event is right around the corner.
Epic.
Anthology Together is the destination for visionaries, educators, and learners ready to unleash the power of education technology. EdUp will be on site for the thought-provoking keynotes, peer-driven discussions, and unparalleled networking opportunities. We guarantee you will leave inspired and connected. You don't want to miss it. Book your tickets to Nashville for AT23, July 17th to July 20th. Register today at anthologytogether.com. You know that the world of higher education is experiencing evolutions and revolutions. You want to be part of the progress. Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education with insights from more than 100 college and university presidents, will show you how. Get your copy of Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education now on Amazon right away. We think you're going to love it. It's
Amazing.
You've got Aneesh, you've got. No, go ahead, Brad. You're taking over. Keep going.
Sorry,
Keep going.
I just had
Like
one last question. How close are you to hitting 1 million degrees?
That's a great question. So look, I love our name. The response I usually get is, well, it's a good thing you're not a climate change organization because that would be really hot. By the way, these sound effects are awesome. They make me sound way better than I probably am. So I'm loving this. This has been fun.
Too much. Now you put pressure on me to get the timing right.
That's right. Get the right one. But no, so the idea or the name of 1 million degrees actually goes back to the piece you were discussing that I wrote in the Heckinger report earlier today. The idea is that the power of a single degree and the impact it can have, and the ripple effect it can have in the future. So I don't know that we're going to set an aspiration to ourselves, ever directly serve 1 million students a year. But what we do aspire and hope to is that through the generational effects of the work we've done, right, we have aspirations to grow, and I'm happy to cover that later. But we think that impact of what we've done goes much further than the single individual and the single degree they get. And so that's what the name's meant to connote.
I like your style, dude.
One of the things that we like to talk about here is partnerships, because you can never do it alone. Especially now in higher education, you have to have the right partners. You have a great partnership with the City Colleges of Chicago. Talk about that partnership, what it means to one. How did it happen? What does it mean? What are some of the consequences, positive, that come out of it? Just go.
Yeah. Look, so we exist to be in service of city colleges, their 7 campuses, their leadership, and ultimately their students. And so, our founding story, 1 Million Degrees, was founded under a different name at that time in 2006, in large part because a few civic leaders who were our co-founders started to realize that there was a lot of energy and attention going toward Chicago public schools and our K-12 system, but there wasn't the equal level of civic energy going toward the community college system. And so at that time at city colleges, the graduation rates for someone earning a degree or credential within 3 years was in the single digits. It's much better now, thanks to a lot of hard work, not just us, but a community of support. But they were concerned about that. And so they, like any good founders, identified a problem and tried to really understand the root causes of that problem rather than trying to prescribe their own solution on top, right? So oftentimes we've seen a lot of organizations who almost exclusively pursue tuition or scholarship and say, hey, if only our students could afford to go to college, then they would be successful. Well, it turns out for community college students or city college students, very few of our students now pay tuition. They're either through Pell or some local opportunities have their tuition covered. And so what our co-founders found was that it was the need for the holistic supports that I shared earlier that was equally as important to ensuring that tuition was paid for and covered. So since 2006, to 2011, I would say the co-founders were working to identify the model. My predecessor from 2011, 12 or so until 2020, 2021 was really focused on building an evidence base for what we've done in partnership with the city colleges. So what we found is that through a randomized controlled trial, if you apply to 1 million degrees before enrolling in college, you're 70% more likely to enroll. You are 94% more likely to stay through your first year, and you're 73% more likely to graduate with a degree or long-term credential within 3 years, right? So we're getting really good outcomes. And so rooted in that evidence base, the chancellor of city colleges and the team there have said, let's double down on our partnership. So now moving forward, rather than having to apply to 1 million degrees, students who are eligible, essentially on a pathway to graduate within 3 years and demonstrate that momentum, will be automatically accepted and enrolled into our program. They no longer have to find us for something they deserve and they know will help them be successful. They automatically have access to it unless they choose to opt out.
Amazing.
As we do this opt-out model, we're also working to integrate our teams, ensure we have shared goals, shared data systems, so that our staff, while we're still an independent nonprofit, can still effectively understand the student experience and then also contribute to the data on the student so the city college's staff can see that as well. Ultimately, I mentioned we've been serving about 900 students to date so far. We'll be at about 3,500 by 2026. And our total universe as we go college by college with city colleges is something like 10, 11, 12,000 students. Now we'll see how many opt out, but that is, we think, that is exponential growth and the type of systems change and scale that we're really after through partnerships.
You will learn by the numbers. I will teach you.
We like numbers here. We like growth. One of the things that you said that I think resonates, and it's really, if you think about the psychology of it, it's really important, because if these students don't have the same financial concerns that they had before, it makes the wraparound services, whatever you call them, right? We have wraparound services to mean anything that a student, it's like student services. What is that exactly? But it makes those services like mentoring, everything that you provide more important, because the student, you know, how many students can fall back on finances even when finances aren't the real barrier? A lot of times they are. But when you go through retention, if you know retention well, you know that a student might have, I don't know, interaction with somebody at the school and go, you know what, I just can't afford it anymore. And it becomes the reason. And it's hard to talk somebody out of whether they can or can't afford it. It's a lot. So once you take that off the table, it becomes, how do we put these things around you so that you don't use these other things as justification for why you can't do something? Maybe not as powerful as finance, but still can be justification, right? You can get into a, I don't know, you can miss the train and go, I just can't do it anymore. I can't get there. So it's about providing this self-confidence infrastructure, right? Because isn't self-confidence such an important part of getting these students to school every day?
Absolutely. I mean, there's two words I keep coming back to when people ask me, why does what you do work? It's hope and it's community. So on hope, really what our students are looking for is a connection between what they're doing right now and their futures. Our students do not have time to waste. And so I think they are so hungry and so eager to dive in when they see that connection to their futures. The second is community. Our students want to know that they are believed in, not just in words, but in actions. And so I think the holistic supports we're able to provide fosters a sense of a community of support around the student. It connects them back to their hopes and dreams for their future. And ultimately, as you noted, I think helps engender the self-confidence in our students so that they can keep going.
True.
Brad.
Yeah, well, I see from your website, it's heavily funded through donations. And as your success grows, do you think more of the employers will be funding that level too, that they see the value in what they're getting from the education system?
Absolutely. And that's part of our plan moving forward, is to find sustainable business models. We think philanthropy has a critical role to play. And so we'll, of course, continue to pursue philanthropy. My perspective as a nonprofit leader is philanthropy has a role to play in helping to test out solutions to problems that are really thorny. As you build an evidence base, I then think it's really important that the public sector and employers, in our case, invest back in the solutions. So one of the things we're really excited about with the City College's expansion is for the first 4 years, it's roughly $20 million on top of our current budget. And City Colleges put in $5 million of that 20 million, which really helped to rally a community of philanthropic support, including a matching gift by Penny Pritzker of $5 million to get the momentum going.
Wow.
Equally as important, though, assuming this all works, the City College's Board of Trustees passed a resolution last fall indicating a desire by year 5 to fund the operational costs of this expansion. Why are they doing it? When you have more students enrolling and more students taking more credits because of our supports, there's also a bit of tuition revenue that is generated at the colleges. Now, the students aren't paying for it, right? It's coming from whichever source of scholarship. But the City Colleges is saying, gosh, we want to take that revenue and put it back into a support model that also gets us really good outcomes with students. And then to your point about employers, we think we have a value proposition and a case to make that we can support your future talent to be ready, to be prepared, and support your company in being prepared for our students and our talent as well. So in the apprenticeship piece we talked about earlier, we talked about, of course, the apprentices we work with and the students we support. We've also started working with managers of apprentices to ensure they're ready to support our students. And we think there's a value proposition or an ROI proposition here, which is if they calculate how much turnover they might get in some of these positions and the cost to then recruit and train new talent, we think we can bring incredible talent and reduce their costs on HR as well by providing the supports we provide. So it's a shift in where you put the money into your current and future employees rather than trying to continuously go through the cycle of finding, hiring, losing, and then finding new people.
Yeah. Nailed it.
The one state years ago, and I don't know what they're doing now, but in Alabama, they started collecting for every construction company when they would get their yearly renewal. The state would charge them a little bit of money that would go in a pot, and it would be distributed to construction programs across the state. So there was a revenue stream that they built up a long time ago, and it was very useful. And again, I get calls from all sorts of industry, whether it's construction, cybersecurity, facilities, IT, telecom, and it's always the same thing. Even today is, where can we get more employees? So we know the demand's out there for all these fields that we're talking about. It's how do we help the employers connect better to them, because employers are happy to hire them. But I think what you're doing and what we need to look for in the future is that direct connection where the employers are helping from the very beginning of the funnel to help the student get involved in these training. And again, you don't need a full bachelor's degree in many fields. I think as we started the program off, I think there's value in completing out a bachelor's degree for yourself and your future earnings. And once you have the bachelor's degree, it's something that you can't have taken away from you. And it gives you that leverage for lifelong learning that you may choose to continue or not, but there's value in it. One thing that I've done here at Capitol Tech is started this online professional trades degree, which basically, if you have a 4-year apprenticeship program, you can transfer 42 of those apprenticeship credits automatically in the program and only have to do the rest of the program, which is to help you if you want to start your own company, management based. But it's bringing together all the different components of industry, which the community college has done for years, right? They have the trades program.
True.
And they have the management and bringing that together so that a student who gets out there and is very successful at the trades, many of them want to go start their own company. I mean, plumbers are a great example, right? And what we've seen, just like you on the statistics that you know about those folks, I know that most of the small technical business, like the construction company, home builders, have failed, not because they can't build, but because they don't understand the finance and the cash flow. So if we can help merge that with those students, they really can even go out and create their own businesses in a few years when they decide what they want to do. And this is a great start how you're helping them get out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask a question back, but I will. Bradford, curious, you mentioned earlier you have this income guarantee as part of your experience. Tell me more about how that's going and what you've learned from that.
Sure. So for years, we've had this thing, which is a commitment that if you don't get a career in your field in 90 days, you can come back for a certificate free in another area. So that's been going on for in excess of 10 years. And we had only about 10 people that ever had to come back and do that because we only offered degrees that are in industry demand. So a few years ago, we added this program where you guarantee 50,000 of them starting salary. And what we found is initially students and their parents are like, they're kind of concerned, like, that's too good to be true. You mean all we have to do is just sign the piece of paper? We don't have to pay anything? We're like, no, we cover the cost in the back end. It's like a scholarship, right? And so we found that it's picking up, but it was a scary thing for students and their parents to think that, is this for real, that you're guaranteeing that? But I think the more students that are signing up for it and the more we're promoting it, it's becoming something that is easier to accept because we tell them, it doesn't cost you anything, and it's just like a scholarship for you. So it's taken a while to get people to actually agree that it isn't just too good to be true. It is some value proposition that we're providing as an ROI.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I mean, the point about too good to be true, we sort of hear that in a different way in our new model with city colleges too. You mean to tell me there's this whole organization that exists and we get the support if all we have to do is maintain momentum? Sounds too good to be true, right? So I think to your point, how we talk to our students about opportunities that exist and how we socialize it with them and their families is really important.
Well, Aneesh, Brad, let me ask a quick question. Is there an identity that comes with 1 million degrees? So if a student is enrolled in the program, do they identify with, I'm a part of 1 million degrees and I'm attending the city colleges of Chicago? And the reason I ask is because, and you all three of us know this, so many community college presidents know it, that there's this dispelling the myth around the community college is the 13th grade or that it's somehow lesser than other college education. And I'm wondering if there's an identity that these students have with 1 million degrees too, that adds to that, I don't know, oomph behind attending a community college.
Yeah,
oomph is an academic word, by the way.
Yeah. Gravitas is
that's right.
what I'm thinking about. Yes, no, absolutely.
100%.
1 million degrees. It's funny, we've been using the word students, right? So we call them scholars. And so I think even that word choice really matters. And our students do wear the badge of being a 1 million degree scholar with a lot of pride. And one thing I'm excited about, well, this is a risk and an opportunity. The risk as we grow is this just becomes another thing in the system, and they are just students still. But the opportunity is to say, no, you are a 1 million degree scholar because you are choosing to pursue and maintain momentum on a pathway toward your hopes and dreams. And so we got to make sure we capture that opportunity to continue this gravitas of scholar. And related, we think as we grow and serve more students, the peer effect will be really powerful, right? So you will trust your closest friends more than you will probably trust anyone else when they share with you that, hey, I'm a scholar with 1 million degrees. This is the access and supports I get. You should make sure you know about this program. Or, hey, you need to be taking one more class to be eligible. It's worth it. Let's take one more class. They will support you in making it work for you. And as a result, you'll get all these holistic supports. I think the peer effect will be really powerful here as well, in addition to the gravitas.
There's a movie called The Kingdom. I don't know if you've ever seen it, with Orlando Bloom, and they're fighting over Jerusalem, and they're fighting, and he, I think he's with all the peasants and all the people, and he kneels down and he knights everybody all at once, right? So they're all peasants, and he says, "You're all now knights." And I don't remember who it was, comes over and says, "You think they're going to fight better because you've called everybody a knight now?" And he says, "Absolutely right." And so I'm just thinking about the word scholar. And if you're calling everybody a scholar, if that somehow psychologically adds to this prestige, right? I'm not just a student, I'm a scholar now. And it's a very big difference in how that word could be perceived. Is that strategic? Did you just pick that out of the whim, or was it, no, we need to take this very seriously and the students need to take it just as seriously?
Yeah, no, it was strategic, and all credit to our co-founders and our early team members who came up with that term, but it was for the exact reason you're getting at. which is we want our students to feel special. We want them to feel distinct and unique, and we want them to feel proud that the investment they've made to pursue their education at our local city college institution is something that is worth them fighting for.
Brad, do you have any final questions for Aneesh before we give him the final two to end the episode?
No, I mean, I think it's great, what you're doing. I was a first generation student and went to a 4-year program. And that first year was very difficult. I didn't feel like I was prepared at all. And it was something that I could have failed at if I just didn't have the pressure from my parents to say, you need to go and do it. Right. So I think helping students like you're doing get over that hurdle, right? That school, you can do it. It's not that difficult if we show you some strategies. And for some students, it may be as simple as study strategies, right? That they've never really been successful at in high school. So if you can help more students get over that hurdle, I think what you see is not only do they excel with your help at the community college, but then they want to become lifelong learners because they understand it. And it's like now all of a sudden it becomes more of a fun thing, right? I can learn more about this and this and this because I know how to successfully achieve it. And so I commend you guys from helping as many students as you can get over that hurdle.
Aneesh, 2 questions to end the episode. Well, one's not really a question, but the first one is, what do you want to say about 1 million degrees that hasn't been said? Anything you want to say? The mic is open to you for a couple of minutes. You can take it in whatever direction you want, as long as you answer my second question, which is what you see for the future of higher education.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I'll take your second question first because I think it's the context we operate in, and we were getting at this with the Heckinger piece. I think we are in a moment of disruption and change in higher education. And I think the story is yet to be told on where it goes and in what direction, but there's clearly a lot of experimentation happening. My hope is through all of this, we center the student experience and the outcomes for students, not just in the near term, but the long term as well, and what our students want in their hopes and dreams. And as long as we are centered in that, hold ourselves to a standard of data transparency and accountability that we would all want for any of our own students, then I'm optimistic we'll find our way to where we need to go. But there's a lot of work to do, I think, to get there. In terms of 1 million degrees, kind of speaking to the work to do ahead, we are really excited as we move forward to both double down in Chicago in the ways in which we've been talking about, right, through an automatic enrollment model to start to really get to more students and ideally finish the job here. And at the same time, we're in the early stages of launching a advisory and capacity building initiative, so providing more on the technical assistance side beyond Chicago. We think we've learned a few things in doing this work. One is context and relationships really matter. And so in Chicago, I think we've been successful because we started ground up and built those relationships, really understood the community here. We think there are incredible colleges and other institutions and nonprofits in many communities that could do what we're doing. We want to help them take what we've learned and implement it in their context and leverage their knowledge and assets. So that's one thing we're excited to go do in the future, which is to help think about supports beyond Chicago. And then the second thing, Bradford was getting at this with the apprenticeships and then kind of work-based learning piece. We are excited to figure out how we can deepen our own impact in the work-based learning sphere, whether it's directly for employers as the end customer or the intermediary customer supporting our students, or it's with the colleges who want to build tighter connections with the workforce. We think that's going to be a critical part of the future of higher education and 1 million degrees as well.
Well, there you have it, guys. Brad, what did you think of this conversation here and being on as a guest co-host?
Oh, I think it's great. I mean, it was fun. Because you pay me so much money to do this, so I can't be bad, right?
Can't be. I mean, it can't be that bad when I paid you all that money. Ladies and gentlemen, my guest co-host, you know him, you love him. He's Dr. Bradford Sims. He's president of CapTech University. You can check him out. What's the website, Brad?
captechu.edu.
There you go, ladies and gents. And of course, my guest today, your guest today, check out what he's written. Check out 1 Million Degrees. Here he is. He's Aneesh Sohoni. He is CEO at 1 Million Degrees. And he's an amazing man with an amazing mission to help more kids and adults in community colleges. Aneesh, what a pleasure to have you on. We hope you had a good time.
This was fun. Thank you. Thank you for giving me more applauses that I get in real life. It really made me feel confident.
Well, with that, ladies and gentlemen, we're all about boosting confidence here. You've just EdUp'd. Now, what can you expect at AT23? That's Anthology Together 2023. Well, expect to look into the future, expand your network, and explore solutions with experts. You're going to hear from industry thought leaders. You're going to connect with countless opportunities and people representing different institutions across the globe. You might even get to test out some new tech and help drive future anthology technology. That's right, Anthology Together. Registration is open at anthologytogether.com. It's time to level up. The beginning of a new era in higher education begins with you. Order your copy of Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education by Kate Colbert, Dr. Joe Salustio, with contributions by Elvin Freitas. It's higher education's must-read book of 2022. Discover how you can seize the moment to change higher education forever. Commencement, The Beginning of a New Era in Higher Education, now available on Amazon. For bulk orders, contact Kate, Joe, or Elvin